Good. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as a way of respecting, honoring, and creating awareness about our past, we begin our village board meetings by acknowledging that New Paltz is on the ancestral land of the Muncie, Esopus, and Lenape people. Please check out our agendas and our minutes because we have been expanding our list of ways to support Indigenous communities, but we'd love some more input from you all as well to that end.
In terms of amendments to this agenda, on the consent agenda, I'm going to add item 2B. And we're going to have a discussion with Kai from County Planning about housing, and that will be business agenda item number 1. We also have, there should be a star next to, I think, number 3, right? The proposed water rate increase, because I think I only did that yesterday.
Well, that's
It's been on there? Okay, no problem. And then number 6 was added yesterday. That was a discussion that is a discussion for us as a village board to have about New Paltz Public Access Channel 23. Item number 7 also will be added regarding establishing an escrow agreement for some town water and sewer districts. And item number 8, we just got late this afternoon regarding the connection to the rail trail. This is part of the Empire State. What is it called? The EST Empire State Trail. I move to accept the agenda, both agendas as amended. All in favor?
Okay.
I would like to move the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Is Trisha on Zoom? Hi, Trisha.
I'm here. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining us. So you're going to provide a little update as our county legislator. Greatly appreciated.
Yes, I've got a couple quick updates. We're putting forth a resolution for filling of the vacancies for in case the legislature resigns. Mirroring it off of the Dutchess County policy, which requires so in my case, it would be the village of New Paltz and the town of New Paltz boards would vote on who to send up to the county legislature. The only thing that two things is missing from the resolution. One is that I think it should be a weighted vote. So since most of the people that I represent are in the village of New Paltz and a small percentage is in the town, then the village should have a higher weighted vote than the town. What do you guys think about that amendment? Does that make sense?
I would like to do it. I love your idea of doing it based on population. I also think another metric that we should use more often is the assessed value of all properties in our community, including those that are not taxable. So I would include the college in the village of New Paltz, for instance. I would love that if that was a thing that we did regularly. So we would actually have a representation from the college as opposed to the way things are currently done, where we for instance, figure out how to distribute mortgage tax revenue and sales tax revenue based on the value of taxable assessed properties. That's a little insider baseball stuff, but I would actually enjoy that we did things that way. I just think it would be more equitable.
How would we go about doing that? So I did talk with Ashley from the Board of Elections, and in terms of calculating weighted vote based on the number of voters that voted in the last election, that's an easy enough thing to do. But in terms of calculating the weight based on assessed value of property, how would we go about doing that?
I think your idea is better and easier to handle. I just wanted to be on record that we should be more mindful of thinking about things in terms of assessed value, including properties that are off the tax rolls.
Okay. So I
Yeah.
will move forward with the easy option right now, but then explore how we would go about doing the assessed value. Alex, did you?
Yeah, so you're saying with the, whatever the previous election was that it?
Correct. Like the
Cool.
number of people in the, and that's usually what we do for when a candidate has to petition for signatures. That's the weighted total that we use, like a percentage of people that voted in the last election.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking in my head, is like, oh, well, that's already kind of the formula the state board of elections uses, like across the board for stuff. That does, it puts onus on all of us to get out and vote all the time, but we should all be doing that anyway.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
It does make most sense, I suppose. It just also seems like, I don't know, if it's, it's going to be very different in a year where there's like a presidential election versus, we're just doing county legislature and such. Or just village and town, or, So
Can we just do it based on population? Why do we have to do it based on
yeah.
voters?
We could do it based on population.
Like the census, is a good tool.
Population is the most equitable thing every single time.
Let me try to see if that's an easy metric to gather based on calculations, because the Board of Election already has this district, the legislative district 20 information. So I'm not sure if they have population data or if they have voter based, just the voters. Let me gather that information and see if it's possible. Any other comments on that one amendment?
No, I appreciate your work on it, though.
The other amendment that I wanted to make to that is, since it's a partisan office, I think we should put in some language in there to maintain the partisan relationship. So if it's a Democrat or a Republican or a no party affiliate candidate that's resigning and we're filling the vacancy for that candidate, we would want to maintain the party affiliation. How do people feel about that?
I think that's less important.
I don't
Well,
really,
it keeps the stability of the legislative body.
oh, that does make sense. It does keep the numbers the same.
It's just
Right.
less
So
disruptive.
I think that's a good amendment, actually. I really do, because it could change, depending on how close it is in the legislature at any given time, it could change who the chair would be or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's really good.
Yeah, and I think that also actually does a good job reflecting, the voters' will from the past election.
Right.
Although, as a village of New Paltz, even though we're now on general cycles, we tend to not care about party as much as like maybe others would, but I like that.
Well, it's for the whole county, so.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Sounds right. What resonated with me is the voters' will, what Alex just said.
If the population option doesn't fly, what election would it be based upon? Maybe the gubernatorial or presidential?
It would be the previous year's election, so it depends on what the numbers were.
Local, national, state.
It would be state. But I can get more details from Ashley on that
Thank you.
and follow up by email. The next thing that's up is that there was a resolution that came up, a memorandum of agreement with the Village of New Paltz to provide water to the Ulster County Veterans Cemetery. As that, it sounds like the Village of New Paltz is already aware of that and entered into that agreement.
Yeah, so we got a draft MOA from the Director of County Planning. Our attorney, myself, and our DPW superintendent have reviewed it. We have a tracked changes version of that MOA on our agenda this evening. Going to ask this board to vote on it. And then I gave Dennis a heads up that we had this track change version and I sent it to him. So I feel like the path of least resistance is that we're okay with it as a board, and the folks in the county are okay with the changes that we made. And you know, we were trying to accommodate the veteran cemetery and make sure that it had water earlier this spring in time for its unveiling.
Okay, so I will go ahead and support that when it comes up.
Thank you.
The other thing is the funding for housing affordability passed, and Sana came out and supported that, which was great. And that's dedicating 15 million in fund balance to just dedicated towards affordable housing within the county, which is great. So that's all. Any questions?
I sent an email today and I added you.
Yep,
Did
I
you
saw
see it?
that. I
Okay.
did. I don't see any ARPA funds for that on the agenda this month, but it might come up next month. I'll follow up to see where
So, yeah,
it's at.
so what the folks from the rescue squad were describing this morning at Town Gown was that they had received half of the money that they were expected to receive through ARPA and through the county's ARPA program. And they were waiting for the second half, and they just had some questions about how to proceed, you know, because they're putting together their 2024 budget. So it would be super helpful if they just had a sense of when that money was gonna be available so they could budget for it or not. So anything you could do to help them, you know, they would be super appreciative. So I know that this is kind of like our world that we navigate in regularly, whereas, you know, those guys probably would really appreciate some assistance.
Okay, I'll check with the legislative staff and see if somebody can follow up on where it is in the pipeline.
Thank you.
I, on a different topic, another question. When do you have any idea when people are going to start being appointed to serve on the Housing Policy and Oversight Committee? I submitted an application on like the portal, and it always does that thing where you can't see if it went through or not, but since it's not in draft, I guess it is. But just curious when that is, and also just wanted to share that publicly. That's a thing on the county website. There's lots of boards to join.
Let me check with Abe and see where it is, because that recently passed. So I can follow up via email on like what the process is and when, you know, what the timeline is.
Awesome, because then that way I can kind of share that out too at our next meeting. Thank you.
That would be great. Okay, anything else?
No, thank you, Tricia.
Thanks for coming, Tricia.
Yep, thanks, guys. Bye.
Any other announcements from board members?
Sisterhood New Paltz is doing their 7th annual Red Tent Drive, which is a collection of maxi pads. And all the donations go to Family of New Paltz and their affiliates. Right now, there's red tent boxes at Lush Eco Salon, El Salon, Chroma, Gem, Elting Library, Gardner Library, and the Shag in Kingston. And folks can go, if you're going to any of those places, or you can make a special trip to drop off maxi pads only. The reason it's maxi pads is because that is the need from family. They don't need other items at this time. And that runs through the end of October, which will then take us into turkey trot season, which is another Family of New Paltz fundraising event to keep in mind as well. If for folks who want to donate money instead of purchasing maxi pads, we have a PayPal account, and it is the Resisterhood at PayPal. And there's also some social media on it. So if you've forgotten everything I just said, you can look that up on Resisterhood's Facebook page or Instagram.
Awesome. I have a couple announcements. So the Jordan Taylor Memorial Fund to support the Black Studies Department at SUNY New Paltz is still up and running. I mentioned last meeting the brick in Jordan's honor was installed over on campus. Definitely worth checking out. It's by the fountain next to the student union building. For the Memorial Fund, a group of us that were part of the search party, and are all really old friends of Jordan's and classmates and teachers and so on, all really want to reach a goal of like $10,000 in the first year, and then just keep it up from there on. To really support one of the things that Jordan was most passionate about, which was the program he graduated from, the Black Studies Department. So we're getting there. I meant to ask for an updated figure before this meeting, but I know we're about halfway there. So the flyers are around in different businesses, but you can go online to bit.ly/JMT-SUNY to donate. Anyone who is an artist out there that wants to put on like a benefit show or something, that might be a cool thing to do as well. So that we can, honor one of our good friends and, former community members, and support this program. This Sunday, September 17th, I announced last time, but now it's coming up in just a few days. It's the big climate march in the city against fossil fuels. There's way more than 2 buses now leaving from New Paltz, some for the college, some just for everybody else. If you are on Facebook, head over to our Climate Smart Task Force page and you can get links to sign up. Or I will, after this meeting, reshare those links on all my social media channels also. You can probably just Google it too. But there's room, so come with us. I know Stana will be marching, and so will I, and some other people too. A lot of our Climate Smart Task Force members are going to be there too. So the free food fridge is right outside where we are right now. It's 25 Plattekill Avenue. It's there for you all the time. Go there if you need something. Donations are always needed. So to make sure you're doing donations right, just check out the do's and do nots over on millionsofbutterflies.org/free-food-fridge. Narcan and other harm reduction services continue to be available anywhere in Ulster County, thanks to Ellenville Regional's Project Rescue Program. You can text ERH Rescue to 21000, and they'll respond back, about what is it that you need. And I wanted to share the Never Use Alone hotline. Does save lives. Keep it in your phone. You never know if a friend might need it. It's 800-484-3731. And then Narcan trainings are always available online. You can go to opioidpreventionnp.org and follow the instructions on that screen. And drug test strips are available for free at locations throughout the community. I know there's some at Family of New Paltz, at the youth program, at the community fridge. And I don't know if I mentioned the community center, but saw them there last time I was there too. I think that's it for now. Another 15-minute like announcement update for me.
Any other,
Just one. The Ulster County is pairing with the Red Cross, and with the weather getting cooler now, we're shutting our windows. You might be running your furnaces. It's a good idea to check your smoke detectors and your CO detectors. There's a program where you can get a free CO detector, smoke detector installed in your home. If you don't have one, you have one that the batteries aren't working or is malfunctioning, you do not have a smoke detector in your house. So you can contact the Red Cross at 518-694-5121. Free.
nice. Okay, moving on to our business agenda. Kai, do you want to join us? Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Public comment. Do we have, we have an individual, do you want to come join us at the table, state your name? And absolutely.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Taylor. I'm a Village of New Paltz resident and also a student at SUNY New Paltz. I am here today to talk to you about the parking situation happening out here. I just attended class on this Tuesday, and I received a parking ticket where there was no meter, where there used to be a meter. I came and talked to the office, and they said there's signs on the sides. While I was doing that, 2 other individuals came up with parking tickets stating the same thing, that there was no meter for them to pay. I personally think that maybe we should forgive these tickets for the first month. I understand you guys just put these in. I never received an email from my school about it, when typically we get emails saying like, snow, don't park on street for plowing and such. It's a $20 ticket for the first 5 days, $30 after that. $20 is about a lunch for me as a college student. There's a park here that I see families go to very often, and it's a free park. It's supposed to be free. It's probably paid for by tax money. It feels like now you're shutting out some lower income people from the park. You have to go and get an app. You have to pay with a credit card. Not everybody has a bank account or a credit card. Like my own mother doesn't have a credit card. She would not be able to go to the park with my nieces and nephews. So it just feels a little personal to me. Sorry. And yeah.
So totally appreciate you coming and voicing your concern. I think it makes a lot of sense to do exactly what you're doing in a public meeting. I think your request to have a grace period makes a total amount of sense, and we can definitely, because you're asking, we can definitely eliminate this ticket and treat it as like the time that you were getting used to the new system. I can explain though that, so the idea of the app is that it's in lieu of buying new parking meters, right? Because new parking meters would cost the equivalent amount, and then the price for using those meters would be equivalent to how much you would have to pay using the app. So it's one or the other. We've had a lot of interest from community members who appreciate the flexibility of using the app. So
I get that. Kingston has the app option with the meter still
we
there.
have both. So we have some sections that are app only. We have some sections that are app and meter.
Okay.
If we could wave a magic wand and have both everywhere, we would, but we also have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that we're, investing in this infrastructure best we
Yeah.
can.
I totally understand that. I'm sure stickers don't cost very much. You could put a sticker on where the meter used to be. Because
There'll be signs. There'll be.
Well, they-
signs.
were very aggressive with me, telling me that there were signs that I should have read.
Yeah.
So, that are at the either end of the block.
I think it makes
don't think that people are walking to the end of the block.
I think
you
adding more
also-
signs sounds like, and this
Yeah.
is something that I've been working with our parking department on. I want them to get out and walk the streets and look at where the signs are through the lens of, if they are, parking their own car. So
Right.
without a doubt, we
Well,
can
it-
make
Yeah,
improvements
I think
and add signs.
if they had told me that this had just gone into effect at the end of August, obviously the college students have just come back. Maybe instead of giving tickets immediately, because while I was standing at the office, you guys made $60. Which I understand, you didn't pay your meter, you don't get to park for free, I suppose. But maybe put a warning instead of a ticket and say, hey, this is our new system pamphlet. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
If
good
you
to-
can't, if you don't have
And
a credit card.
That
come
happened,
talk to us.
for the first several weeks.
Well, they said they just put these,
Absolutely.
okay, sorry, it's just.
So the timing of all of it,
Yeah,
again, the rollouts will always be lumpy. Rollouts will always be difficult. There will always be
Right.
frustrating situations. And so we can absolutely eliminate the ticket that you received.
right. I also would like in the middle of the parking lot there, right in front of the Vanderburg building, the handicap parking is in the middle. And I have no expectation that somebody who's handicapped is going to go to the end of the block to look for a sign to tell them how to pay for something.
Handicap parking is free though.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay. I've never parked in one, so I would assume they'd pay just like anyone else.
no, it's free everywhere in the village.
Okay. So, yeah, that was I mean, and it's not just my ticket. There was a foreign exchange student who had no idea what even a parking ticket was and what to do about it. Obviously I pled not guilty on mine, and then he just did what I was doing and just asked me what to do. So there are probably a lot of those coming through your building down there, and they seemed
Parking is probably my least favorite part of this job, and we deal with it on a daily basis.
upset.
It's a lot of fun.
And
The reason we
I
have,
told him, I was like, I'm sorry, I understand it's not your fault. This isn't you who's doing this. I said, but I'm telling you right now, you're gonna have 50 more students coming just today.
the reason we have parking enforcement is so spots continually rotate.
Right.
So it benefits the businesses, it benefits the people who live in the community.
Right.
Because what happens if you don't have parking enforcement, then cars just sit there indefinitely.
Right.
So I don't know how stickers where you would put them or anything, but I think more signs is definitely necessary, like having them only at the corners. Like if I went somewhere, I wouldn't look at the corner for a sign for parking. So I definitely think we
The
have to
meter
have a
poles
sign.
are still there. So you could
Oh,
put
okay.
stickers on where each meter was originally with the same
Yeah.
thing that's on the sign, and I would know that I had to pay something
I
when I got out of the
still-
car. there
I
was
still
nothing to
think
pay.
we should put up signs more than just on that corner.
You know, it'd be
Like in the
awesome,
middle.
Sana, if you wanted to walk the village and do an audit of where you think the sign should go to increase visibility, that would be awesome. That would help the parking department
Okay,
enormously.
I'll try to see if I can help out with that. And I also think that it would be really great if we contacted the college so that they can tell students
Send out an
in an
email.
email.
You never got an
message
email?
out
No, I just
where-
I'm gonna nudge Ren from the Student Association, and be like, hey, could you send a web page? So I didn't mean to talk over you, just wanted.
Yeah, but
So,
just
yeah.
be clear about where the parking meters were and so that people know where they need to, because I don't know where they were removed from. But we need to, the ones that are near the college where they were removed, we should let the college kids know so that they know, they need to use an
A
app.
lot of those meters are broken.
Perhaps
Mhm.
also the college should look into better parking solutions
Oh,
for their
yes.
students.
That as well.
Also, Taylor, just one tip where I park, because I am really bad at reading signs personally. So I always park on Huguenot Street. There's a free municipal parking lot there. I know it's a bit more of a hike.
That's a shortcut.
Well, I just stay in Vanderbilt because I'm a business student.
Yeah.
And there is free parking along the side with a 2-hour max.
Mhm.
There's not always parking there. I'm more than happy to pay a meter. I don't mind if I have the easier access. But I also like to leave that area more open to, I see families a lot. And it's a kind of busy area. And I just know my sister with 2 kids taking the stroller out and in the middle of a
Years
street.
ago, we used to have weekend meters, so we ended that. So
Yeah.
there's free parking on the weekends
Right.
when
Surrounding the park.
largely by the, surrounded by
Right. Well, yeah, and that's what I had said to my sister was, this is a free activity for families, is to go to the park. And now they're paying a ticket
In
or,
that 2 hours, there is availability.
yeah, if there is availability. Yeah,
That's really what that's for.
right,
And
which
the
is why I try to
weekends-
leave it open.
And the weekends being free
Right.
also addresses a lot of that because a lot of people are coming. Not that there aren't people coming in the
During,
afternoons.
there are,
during the
the
week,
park
'cause
is
I know there
full.
are. I've been there. My kid's too old now, but I've been there. But yeah, we need to handle it a little.
I'm starting this email, so I do it as soon as we're done, to Student Association, asking them for help to share out our approved parking messaging. Thanks for.
Yeah, I
your
think we
help.
have an updated
Yeah,
page on the village
village,
site
yeah.
with details about parking and the parking app, so you can
I'm-
include that link.
yeah, I'm gonna ask if they can include that link, and blast it out as soon as possible.
Excellent.
Could you possibly send that out, that same to the editor at the Oracle?
Oh, yeah,
That's a great idea.
maybe fact staff list as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. On it.
Okay, that was it.
Thanks for all your
Thanks so
help,
much for
Taylor.
coming.
Thanks.
Really appreciate it.
Sorry if I was a little mean, but
Not at all.
I was like, I wanted to know when the next board meeting is, and they're like, it's this Wednesday at 7. I was like, I'll be there.
No, we're glad you came.
Yeah.
We really are, because we
Yeah.
needed to have this feedback.
Well, it's not mostly about me. It's mostly about the people who I feel like don't even, they live here, but they don't really understand, this. But thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Have a great rest of your morning.
Me too.
Also, I pled not guilty to that ticket, so I guess I'll just go to court for it.
We can quash the ticket though.
How will you know?
Give us your name. Give us your name and we'll watch
My first name's Taylor. My last name is Venditti, Venditti.
And perhaps what day were you there?
I went to class on Monday morning.
So Monday was the 11th.
Oh, yes. it was.
So maybe we can just give an amnesty for a few days or something, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday or something, so that they'll be getting an email about this maybe tomorrow. So that we'll give a little grace there. I don't know.
That's up to you guys.
Thoughts?
I'm not really sure what you're suggesting.
I'm suggesting that parking tickets written this week, or at least Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. be
Let's talk
sent out.
about it with the parking department.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
offline.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Kai, do you want to join us so we can have our housing smart conversation?
Just so you know, that's the mic we all talk into. Yeah.
Move up a little bit.
So folks at home who watch it after the fact can know what's up. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so I didn't prepare much, but I can explain where we're at with the Ulster County Planning Department and the Village of New Paltz. So we launched the Housing Smart Communities Program, which the Village of New Paltz was the first to join, back in October or November this last year. we chose to work on there's 12 housing smart actions that communities can work on related to zoning updates, which the village is doing a lot of anyway, short-term rental regulations, which you have as well, rehab programs. There's a various number of things related to housing accessory dwelling units, one of which is what we call like rent stabilization, which is related to the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, which was amended in 2019 to allow the rest of the state outside of New York City to enter into the process of rent stabilization through the Department of Housing or Homes and Community Renewal. So I'm sure you've heard or read about the city of Kingston and the process they've gone through. And we've been in discussion with them about that process. And so we wanted to add that as an option for other communities to go through that process as well. So there's discussion with Alex as well as the kind of housing group, which is your renters and landlord tenant group, to pursue a vacancy rate study or pursue the Emergency Tenant Protection Act. So the first step, there's some of these are flexible, some of them are more rigid because this is a state process. There's a pretty rigid set of steps that we have to go through. The first being conducting a vacancy rate study, which would only apply to a certain subset of apartment complexes in the village, those that are built before 1974 that have 6 or more units in them. And that counts for, just pull it up, we've gone back and forth, 467 units for the village of New Paltz. And so Tim or the mayor and deputy mayor and I have been discussing back and forth about how to conduct this study, when to conduct it. We decided to wait until school is back in session to get an accurate representation of the vacancies or lack thereof in the village. And so that's where we are now. We've kind of finalized what the vacancy rate survey is going to look like. We'll send that out for about a month, both in paper form as well as digital. Hoping to get 100% response rate would be ideal. And then once we get those responses, we do some calculations and then we determine what the vacancy rate is for the village of New Paltz. If the vacancy rate is below 5%, then the village can declare a housing emergency and enter into the Emergency Tenant Protection Act process, which I can go into those steps a little bit more if you'd like, but we're really at the first stage right now.
Yeah, we're at the first stage, and thanks, Kai. This letter, and on the second page of it is the actual study. It's just 11 questions, the 11th being signature and date. So, pretty straightforward. Ideally, we want to have it go out next week and then give everyone a month, until October 18th to respond. And then, be able to look at the results and all of that. And then, for the November 8th meeting, be able to share out those results and whatever next steps might be it a resolution declaring a housing emergency with the results, or whatever happens from it. So that's kind of the timeline here. And yeah, we've been working on this for a year now. We've had a number of meetings. We've also met with State Department of Homes and Community Renewal, who oversees rent stabilization stuff statewide. So that's a bit of background. And we did get, feedback from our attorney, and I made those changes that he had suggested. There were teeny tiny ones to the letter. So that's all set, and that's, just for the public listening in, that's in the agenda too.
How many respondents are we talking about?
So 15 properties.
15 properties.
Yeah, 15 properties.
Yeah, and you know, what was it, 467 units?
467 units.
Yeah, you know, it might not seem,
800.
a lot, but
842 bedrooms.
yeah, that's the point I wanted to make. That to me feels like a considerable amount of people.
I think what's super interesting about our rental stock is how it includes a lot of single family homes, but those would not be counted in this survey. The survey is apartment complexes and apartment complexes of a certain vintage
Yeah, and the reason for that is that
per the state law.
for the state law in the 1974 was when rent stabilization was first enacted in New York City in the 70s. So it's kind of just piggybacking off of that. I mean, I could comment on whether it's enough, but I won't, because this is the process that the state is set up for now.
And honestly, like I've been saying since, you know, like since I got elected in 2019, they passed this, you know, expansion of it statewide. I attended a bunch of workshops, you know, that were really interesting to learn all about it and brought that back to the board. This is all pre-COVID. And, you know, I was kind of saying, oh, it's not enough. It's not enough. And I feel like the state's never going to be able to do more until all these other communities opt in to what is there now, you know, like that's kind of an interesting gap. So, yeah. So I guess I've been working on this for 4 years now.
Yeah, and we took a bit of a pause too. Kingston's the first upstate community outside of New York to pass it. I think there's a couple other communities that are going through a vacancy rate study right now, but we're moving pretty quickly here. So if the vacancy rate study comes back below 5%.
Didn't Rochester do one and they had some issues with it?
Yeah, Rochester did one. Newburgh is also doing one right now. So yeah, Kingston is first to opt in, but
Yeah, and this letter and study is exactly what has already stood up, you know, all the legal tests and stuff, and homes and community renewals cool with. So we figured just do it verbatim.
yeah, and they also mentioned a good best practice would be bring it to the village board to discuss and approve before sending it out, and then also have the village attorney look at it. So,
Which are things that we did.
Check and check.
back and check.
Yeah. Anyone have any questions? Thoughts?
I did also just pull up for fun. Every year the Ulster County Planning Department puts out a rental housing survey. And so we have stats, although it's not a ton of data on rents as they exist right now. So this was for 2022. New Paltz for 1 bedroom was 1,134. 2 bedroom was, the median was 1,400, and the 3 bedroom was 1,450. And that is for occupied units. So I guess I'm just kind of emphasizing this because that's what folks are paying now for those size units. But then we also look at, I can find it, as advertised units. And advertised units are 1,050 for a studio, 1,393 for a 1 bedroom, 1,895 for a 2 bedroom, and 2,275 for a 3 bedroom. So across the board, there's, you know, $300 to $400 to $500 difference in advertised versus occupied. Right now.
bedroom advertised?
I can send this to you, but for advertised, for a 1 bedroom, New Paltz was $1,393.
That sounds low based on what I've seen people trying to get.
Yeah, and this is not
And this is from 2022.
This is
Oh.
2022.
So this doesn't
Yeah.
reflect the fact that the past year has been miserable.
Yeah.
I can't find anything for under 1,300. Not even talking about having a bedroom, just one studio, yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, this is all on the county website. And I'll make sure to share it out if you guys haven't all read it. This is helpful. Oh, and then I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just thought of it. So another thing with the 2019 expansion of ETPA statewide was that it also meant screen and jury get opted into when a municipality opts into ETPA. So SCREE is senior citizen rent increase exemption, DRE is disability rent increase exemption. I don't know if those SCREE and DRE would only apply to the rent stabilized units or not, but
Yeah, I think that's the case. I don't want to say 100% positive, but I passed that question along to Bartek,
okay.
and he didn't have a clear answer on that either. So what he did say was that any assistance in that exemption would have to go up to the state level, which is unfortunate, but I'll get you a clear answer on.
Okay,
on that one.
cool. Well, that's something cool for us to think about too, that, it could be just another protection for folks in those units, which would be exciting. But who knows, it might be more municipal wide. We'll find out soon.
Yeah, and I guess the last piece here is, if there is a housing emergency and you join Emergency Tenant Protection Act, there's a rent guidelines board that is in Kingston right now, but if New Paltz were to join, it would become a county rent guidelines board, which would mean that there's representatives from Village and from Kingston, and there's tenants and landlord representatives as well as resident representatives.
What's the total number of individuals?
I think it's 9.
Okay.
And the rent guidelines board sets the terms for those rent stabilized units as well as the percent rent increase.
How do you figure out how many from each municipality? How many
That
tenants and landlords?
when we asked the state, they said, let's cross that bridge when we get to it. Because
How does it work now in Kingston?
it's 3, 3, and 3. So 3 tenants, 3 landlords, and 3 residents overall, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep, they did say that on the phone and
yeah, they said, they're kind of in new territory because they haven't done this outside of the New York City metropolitan area.
So it's 3 tenants, 3 landlords, and 3 people who own their home. Okay.
And if between 2 municipalities, the math doesn't work.
yeah, the math doesn't work, but it might turn out to be one of those population things. Maybe this is a chance for you to pitch your assessed
Nice.
value idea finally, Tim.
Cool.
Yeah, I've been in touch with some folks on the Kingston Rent Guidelines Board that have reached out to me in various ways and stuff. And I just think that's pretty cool too, like already like just learning about, I don't know, folks serving on that board enjoy it basically. So that's cool.
And there's assistance from the state
Mhm.
with that rent guidelines, because they help administer the other rent guidelines boards for like Westchester County and New York City. But again, let's cross that bridge. when we
That's a quote from
If-
HDR.
get
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm gonna
So I
Yeah.
guess just for the sake of the minutes and stuff, should I just motion? So I motion to approve the letter and vacancy rate study to go out next week.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
So we're going to send out 15 letters.
Yes,
A whopping 15.
Wow, thank
thank you.
you.
Regardless, I'm really happy.
Yeah, thanks for everything, Kai. Talk to you later.
You.
So the next item on the business agenda is for a 7th year. So this Downtown Revitalization Initiative Program launched in 2016. There was 1 year hiatus during COVID, so we've applied every single year. This will be our 7th application. It's due at the end of this month. Our focus is going to be this campus and the immediate area. And we have been brainstorming with RUPCO. We did a training with them that was organized through Pattern for Progress. And then the idea would be to reimagine this I mean, you have to include a few different projects, but the main project would revolve around reimagining this campus where you would have improved municipal buildings, space for community programming, as well as a housing component. And we've had some fun brainstorming sessions with REPCO, but it'll largely be, because we've written this application so many times, we're going to take the meatier or stronger parts of last year's application and repurpose it for the 2023 submission.
You got feedback about what was good or wasn't, using media parts?
Yeah, we get feedback all the time that application is really, really strong. And it's a very competitive process because we're in the Mid-Hudson region and
Right.
we have like 40 super qualified, deserving communities that are vying for these funds. Like if we lived in a different region in the state, we probably would have already been awarded. But the Mid-Hudson, there's just so many deserving communities.
Right. So you said something about municipal, I'm sorry, was there?
Well, just like if we were to reimagine this campus, wouldn't it make more sense if we had buildings and space for community
When
programming?
you say campus, you mean this space?
I mean, this property. And
Because then we could have village and town halls on the same property, and we could have more space for the community. Yeah, that's necessary.
and integrating with Peace Park and
Right.
the Muni lot down the way and the pit property, if we were mindful of the covenants that are attached to that property from the 1960s, which I think curiously continue to speak to our existing sensibility as far as a community, like having preserved open space and better parking solutions and a municipal building that or a building that was additive for the downtown community.
I love it.
Any questions, thoughts? Do we need to have a motion saying that we support submitting this application? Autumn, what's your take?
Thank you.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Right, because we've already submitted our
Right.
letter of intention to submit, so we've probably already crossed that T. So this was really just a continued update. Then I'm going to move on to business agenda item number 3. So we have a proposed water rate increase. I have communicated this with the financial folks and the senior administration at the college. And I also shared it with the committee members on Town Gown this morning because, 2 big purchasers of water would include our K through 12 school district as well as SUNY New Paltz. And this is a water rate increase proposal at 5% for customers who use 100,000 gallons or more per quarter. So this would not impact our smaller users. I think it's really important to note that we are in a situation where we have to raise rates if we have any chance of trying to manage the fact that the New York City DEP has raised rates 7.3% on an annualized basis for the last 20 years. That's a 310% increase during the last 20 years. And those rates go up by more than the rate of inflation, and they go up by more than how much New York City charges its own customers in the city. I think what's very curious about how they approach the rate increases for us is, they benefit enormously by not being subject to having to filter their water. That's not a requirement per the EPA, whereas it is a requirement for us. That's why we spent $5.5 million on a filtration plant. So we're taking super high quality water in surface water reservoirs next to the Mohawk Preserve and putting it through a very expensive, thorough filtration process. And then we're doing the same thing with the DEP water that we buy from them, that they are not required to put through a filtering system. So a lot of their expenses that are baked into the fact that they're not subject to EPA rules end up being things that we then have to pay for, because those expenses get passed on to us in terms of their way above market rate increases. So, you know, this 5% increase for our largest customers, I would definitely identify the DEP as the reason for this rate increase. Do we have any questions from our board? Nope. Okay, I would like to move that we go ahead and make this rate increase, and this would be effective for the bill date of March 1st, 2024. So that means that would be for the previous 3 months, and generally the way like that billing period would end, it would end in the middle of February. That's generally how the readings work. It's like a 3-month chunk of time, with the final reading being around the middle of February. And then the
Well, it's not really starting at the new year, it's starting like mid-December.
yeah, it's kind of like, no, it's like mid-November, December, Jan, Feb.
Got it.
It's like it straddles the months, but that's why I used, you know, if you look at your bill, it always has effective bill date. So it's effective bill date, March 1st, effective bill date, June 1st.
So, yeah, I'll second that.
Should we get a letter in the next water bill crossing this, so
Yeah,
folks are
I think that's a great idea.
ahead of the law?
Yeah,
No, or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think there might be a little confusion.
yeah, and I think folks need the heads up with as much good time as possible to know what to expect. I mean, I don't know what this is gonna mean in dollars for the average user, but.
it's only for users who use more than 100,000 gallons
So
of
it's
water.
big users, it's
So
not-
the average
it's not-
user,
So on second thought, is that letter gonna be then confusing?
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But we should absolutely write about it and be
Who's that?
communicative. Any of the big restaurants, any of the big apartment complexes. I mean, the idea in terms of how we charge for water, we have the STEP program. So
Right.
always the thinking is that the larger users are charged more
Right.
because they're the ones who can actually move the needle on conservation initiatives. Whereas, right, like if Bill, Michelle and I all like, you know, take a handful fewer showers or don't flush our toilet as often, we're not really going to move the needle.
No.
Whereas like if there's this big broad initiative,
We do
at
that
an
in my
apartment
office,
complex.
yeah, I think if we don't move the needle much.
well, it's still important. I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting you don't be conservative, but in terms of like really trying to, you know, figure out ways to
Mhm. Make the
like
biggest
impact our
Well, if
system.
everybody did it, it would make a big
Yeah.
impact.
But I mean, part of it too is that the college is funded by New York State. You know, it would be really fantastic if the state paid closer attention to how much New York City charges us for water.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. there's-
and you know, it's
I
like
don't know if that'll happen, but-
New York State has to fund the college. They are an important funder of our K through 12 school district. And then New York City has this inequitable system of charging us for raw water and raising the price. It's, you know, it's our single largest expense in our water fund.
So we had a second, but. we had-
All in favor?
Oh,
And then the next business agenda item is the MOA with the county, and this is for the Veteran Cemetery at Plains Road. So this is a retroactive agreement. The county sent us over a draft, as I mentioned when we were chatting with Tricia earlier, that we had some changes. So what should be linked here is the version including Will's changes that were worked on by myself and Blue felt these changes were fairly important. So I would like to move that we approve the MOA and be fine with signing it, provided that the county is also comfortable with our proposed changes. All in favor? And the next item is a brown water survey. So we thought it could be useful, especially while there is this plan in the works to eventually use water from 101 Plains Road. I've expressed for several years now that I'm very nervous about the change of the direction of water in our system, because currently water comes from the west, and then we're gonna, during larger shutdowns, we're gonna have water come from the south. And we all know that anytime that there's like a water main break or any sort of construction or anything that might create a pressure spike, we end up with brown water in our system. And when we were talking with engineers recently about creating operating procedures for DEP shutdowns, they had some questions about, well, where are we seeing the brown water? Is it in some neighborhoods more than others? I was sitting with Nick Coddington from our DPW. He feels that it's a system-wide phenomenon, but it did seem like it made sense. Like we could try to, reach out to our community members, and it might be very interesting to see if we get some unofficial feedback. Maybe that will help us identify where some of our weaker spots are in terms of pipes that have more tuberculated material than other locations, and that might help us with just planning and where we could be focusing on updating and replacing some of that older infrastructure. So this is just kind of an announcement almost that the survey exists. Hopefully everyone on this board will complete the survey and share it with your mates.
So I'm wondering if we can figure out a way to publicize the survey. People, that's another thing. That's something that could go out in water bills.
Yeah,
That's the best way, I think. Come to think of it.
definitely. It's one of, right. I think every opportunity to share it, including in water bills, social media, email blasts, all of the above.
Yeah, because then we'll get the most information.
Yeah. Okay, so just want to make sure it's on everyone's radar and share it as you see fit. And then the next item is we did the discussion about the New Paltz Public Access Channel 23. Just want to open it up to the board to see what kind of thoughts we have about the future of public access. That was definitely something that several years ago, I think a lot of people watched village board meetings, planning board meetings on Channel 23. I don't think our meetings have been broadcast on Channel 23 in a few years. So I just wanted to take the temperature of this board on, what you are hearing from our friends and neighbors in terms of, who watches Channel 23. I mean, there's this phenomenon of people are definitely choosing to eliminate cable services.
I wonder.
But I wanted to get
the
feedback from you guys.
percentage of folks in town, who have cut the cord, so to speak. Like, I mean, I stopped having cable before I moved here to get myself ready.
I never did.
Yeah, well, we have pretty solid data in terms of the franchise fee revenue. So we know how much had been collected. What's curious about that number is it's probably even more significant because it's based on gross revenues. So if the price keeps going up,
Yeah,
it's probably even more significant than it was in 2015. If there was X number of users in
Yeah.
2015, and now there are Y number of users, and the revenue has gone down by 35%, but
but the rates are going up. That
rates
means
have
that the
gone up.
number of
there are
folks-
probably even more than a third fewer cable users.
And then how many of them know about the public access channel? Let alone use it?
And I know that the individuals on the Public Access Committee have asked Charter Spectrum for some time for some ratings detail, like everyone would love to know
Yeah,
how many people are watching this channel, even of the remaining customers.
I mean, I think a lot of people end up watching these meetings, whether it's our meeting, town board, any of the committees that we have, planning board, blah, 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 the school board, all of it. Usually they see the links, either the Zoom links or the links to the YouTube channels. I wonder, I wonder what else is how else it's being utilized. I do certainly appreciate the folks who've been spending time on this stuff and creating programming, but I don't know how much it's being.
And this relates to the franchise agreement that we have. So what's unique about the village's franchise agreement, it says that seniors, if you've paid your bill on time for a 12-month period, you get 1 month credit. And I had an individual contact me this week who was looking for their credit. And I said, the easiest way to do it is to go to the Spectrum store in the Tops Plaza,
Right.
because those staff, because of the noise that we have made as a board and with assistance from our staff, those individuals have been trained and they're familiar with this,
Right.
this discount. What happens, because it's a behemoth of a company at this point, like if you call Spectrum, you don't know who you're going to talk to.
Mhm.
And Spectrum has told us that they have no ability to give their customer service people a heads up
Right,
that
because
people from
it's
New Paltz,
nationwide or whatever.
right, it's a nationwide company providing nationwide customer service. I don't know why it can't be like tagged, but that's what we have been told. So I feel like if we update this franchise agreement, and it has been suggested that it would then only be for those who are currently receiving the discount. But that's not how our franchise agreement currently reads. So
Yeah, no, I'm pretty passionate about the senior discount because I just don't know of any other folks who utilize this resource.
yeah, it's probably even more
More
important
important.
because the
Absolutely.
seniors
Yeah,
are the
they're
ones
so
who are
used to
more likely to maintain
I know
their.
that before. My mother won't.
Right.
Save her a lot of money.
Just everything I've read about, cord cutting and all that, like, this is a service more so, I think, for seniors. It used to be something like in the laundromats, and like when I first was in the dorms, I remember, like in like friends' dorms that had TVs, you could see channel 23 and other stuff, but people don't plug TVs in anymore to cable. So who's using it? Senior citizens. So I don't know, I really want to protect any discount that we can give them, or anything for them.
And although this isn't, we're not talking about stuff that really isn't about the access channel, we're talking more about the franchise agreement. While we're talking about that, I know that because so many people are cutting the cord, that the village is not getting what we used to get for that. And I wonder if there's any way for municipalities to instead be getting something. I guess this would be a whole huge hoo-ha, and be very hard to establish, but get something for Wi-Fi, for service versus.
That would require an
Yeah,
act
like
of the federal
yeah,
government
I
and
understand
the
that.
state
It's a whole
government,
hoo-ha, I said, yeah.
way above our pay grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Do you have any thoughts on this, Michelle, Bill?
They're saying with Spectrum,
with the, I want to clarify, I agree, I think the senior discount is very vital for us. But they're saying that Spectrum said it's impossible for them to do this because of the way their billing system is set up nationwide.
No, no, when they call.
Yeah, I think I think Spectrum has backed up against the idea of a new franchise agreement that would maintain the wording that we have in our franchise agreement. And I've asked our attorney, what does that mean? Like, if we choose to stick with our existing expired franchise agreement, does it eventually go away? And he said, yes, at some point, but I think there's also the reality of the fee that we receive from the cable companies for using our right of way to eventually go away unless, as Donna pointed out, the federal government or state government takes action and requires the Public Service Commission to include cable internet and local government receiving a franchise fee for use of our right of ways.
I also, to that end, I also just want to reiterate, I think I sent this in an email, but I think it's important to do whatever's possible to, if this service still exists, to get village meetings up on there, like.
On
I
channel
don't-
23.
Yeah, I just don't know why that fell off because you
Yeah.
can transfer it from the YouTube, when I was assistant to the village board mayor. For a while there, I had to upload from the old disk from the machine onto, the laptop, the file, and then upload that to YouTube. And then that's where public access folks were able to then populate it onto the channel. For a while, there was no transfer of CD.
Right. So as it was
There hasn't been
explained,
CDs lately at
as it
all.
was explained to me by Autumn, like a partial step would include even just taking the village meetings and putting them on the public access YouTube channel, because currently they're not even on the public access YouTube channel. It does seem like it is a time-consuming pursuit to upload a meeting and then have it on channel 23. It is not like a press of a button. It's a somewhat time-consuming act. So there have been conversations for years about how to pay someone to do this work, and whether and how that gets paid for by the town government, the village government, and what we want to do moving forward. I mean, it was proposed by the Public Access Committee to increase the fee so that there would be more money, and then to have all of that additional money go towards the Public Access Committee to help with these tasks, as well as to have like a dedicated studio space at the community center, which I believe is currently shared by various community programs, including the youth program. And it's, I think, what we wrestle with all the time in terms of local government. There are numerous groups in this community who would like to use government property and receive government support. And I think it's hard to make a strong case that we would take so much of this revenue to fund a public access studio when we, could probably ask 10 people on the street, what do they think the local government should do more of? And we probably get 12 different answers.
Yeah.
Well, I think that with the decline of cable, all cord cutting, like the public access operations like our own across the country are challenged by this, and they're shifting into a YouTube format or online format. I think that's probably a more beneficial conversation and a goal to try to achieve than anything else, in my opinion. As far as the Spectrum's cable network here, a lot of communities are asking for their cable companies to supplant that cable with fiber optic. And we don't have a lot of fiber optic in the village. We have some that serves most of the downtown area. But should that be part of our conversation with Spectrum, is what's the future for fiber optic in our village, in our community? Because, you know, that's where everyone's going. That's where you're getting the most bang for your buck. It's not as difficult to maintain as cable is, and then provide so many other services. And you can establish Wi-Fi networks in neighborhoods much easier because you have a much broader band to work with. So, you know, I'm not sure how that possibly works into this franchise conversation, but maybe it should be part of it.
I think that's another interesting conversation, but in some ways, I think it's not related to the franchise fee and not related to Channel 23.
Exactly. In terms of Channel 23's future, maybe we need to figure that out, getting that person in to make those decisions to put our meetings on the YouTube channel. How can we make that work?
The timing is curious. I mean, maybe, I don't know, I guess we should ask him, Tom, but 2020 was pandemic related, and then it just never was, like, it was just dropped and forgotten about kind of thing.
So I think what Anton and members of the Public Access Committee are looking for is a response in terms of whether we want to negotiate a new franchise agreement, which could potentially include only providing the senior discount for existing recipients, and then also raising the fee that customers are charged. Currently, I think it's like 3% of gross proceeds, and bumping it to 3.5%, and then providing that additional revenue and offering it to the Public Access Committee. You know, I think they're looking for some guidance on
I guess I would
that
need
ask.
to have some idea of how many, you know, who's utilizing it and whether or not, I don't really know, even if we ask cable subscribers, if they felt it was worth it to pay more for that, like, I don't know.
I just want to preserve the senior discounts as they are, and like, I'm not particularly feeling, you know, any type of way about, you know, allocating more funds when we don't have our meetings up on it, you know. Like, I get that it's a good resource, you know, and stuff, but like, one of the most basic things, you know, that was always brought up in discussion about public access, you know, channel, it's like it being a place where people can find the most basic info about the community. And there's town meetings up, Meyer Village ones. I just can't get past that hurdle in my head. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of allocating more for something that isn't sharing out basic village info too.
Right. And I credit our staff for making sure that our meetings are on the village website and village YouTube channel. So, you know, people regularly, I think including many of us, will go back and, you know, see what was said during any one meeting. And that's why it's like super valuable to have these meetings recorded and available online.
Should we put out an informal survey and find out who's watching public access?
Yeah, almost like a brown water survey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of something. That's something we could easily do. You know, put together like that Google form and put that on Facebook and say, and you know, and it's a weird subsection because it's just people on Facebook, so they probably even more likely to have already cut the cord versus maybe someone who prefers to not be so reliant on the internet and, continue to use their cable TV, but could provide us with a little color about that question.
In the paper too, like, hey, there's a survey, you can access it at this little link,
Or here's a phone number if you want to call. And
and you can call and give Mayor Tim your info and he'll fill the survey out for you.
yes.
I almost feel like that's.
Okay, so
yeah.
we can share some of this feedback with the public access committee members. And then I think it does make sense to maybe launch our own Google form and ask folks to respond and provide some of their comments about community members' thoughts on the public access TV channel.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think basically we all want some more info and data, but also stories. So let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next item is we've been contacted by the firm that is working with the property owner at Freihofer's. And from what I understand, they're kind of doing a makeover of that building. And it would be better if, and I've been told that there's no plan to do anything different or move the building or sell the business, or it's really just to optimize what is there. And not that long ago, they were connected to municipal water. It was probably before I knew how to do those things correctly. And I think the town was kind of like did it without following a process that we would now insist upon. So this is probably an opportunity to retroactively make sure that the Freihofer's property is receiving water, but having it done in a compliant way. And then also seeing how it could receive sewer service. And I think it's actually probably easier now because you have the fire station across the street, because that sewer line has run up east closer to the property. So, but this will require some review from attorneys and engineers to make sure everything is done correctly. So I would move that we establish an escrow agreement so the village's legal and engineering teams can make sure that this is all handled correctly, and that this agreement would still be subject to village attorney and engineer review.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. And we got a note with updated plans for the Empire State Trail connection. So this is at the bottom of Henry W, where it will cut across the property of the former Napa building and then connect onto the rail trail. So this will be a really nice feature in that you'll be able to go from that location on a constructed path to the rail trail itself. And Alta Planning is working on this. This entire project will be funded through the Hudson River Valley Greenway Program. So we already had received bids to do the work, because this is a complicated project because it involves a New York State DOT intersection. So this is just some of the field changes that would be required to get the trail handled in the intersection, as well as across the property that we received an easement from the owners of the former Napa building. So I move that the board authorize me to sign this change memo.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? And then the next item is a resolution allocating funds to compensate employees to help discard village records. So this is one of those like bear of a projects, in that it's really like our staff who are best equipped to go ahead and deal with boxes of old records. But it's really not a fun job. And it probably requires doing this during off hours. So this is just a different rate of pay, a higher rate of pay for the staff to come in and do this work. And that is the resolution that was provided to us by our village treasurer.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. I move that we accept the resolution for bills and claims. All in favor? Planning board liaison update.
We did not meet since our last meeting here. I did do Ulster County Planning Board meeting the other night, last week. The only item on the referrals was storage and the plans to have a cannabis dispensary there. And that was determined to have no county impact. So the applications moving forward. That was the most significant thing other than a Dunkin' Donuts on Route 28.
Right. What did they determine about the Dunkin' Donuts?
There's an issue coming down the hill from Belmar to where this proposed Dunkin' Donuts says. And turn left into Dunkin' Donuts. Some sort of change to that intersection. That's
Nice.
it's a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts.
And then ZBA liaison update. So ZBA met last night. The only items that they're working on relate to the two proposed apartment complexes and the former Agway property and the former Gateway property. Both of those require area variances regarding the side yards. We discussed this at the last village board meeting. But that's all that has transpired as of last night at the ZBA meeting. Anything else? Move to adjourn.
Second.
On favor?
Hi.